episode number 2 of the Electronic Music Makers video podcast, and I'm Amy Lee, and I'm here with Chris Huelsbeck.
Hello.
And I'm an audio enthusiast, and you're a real composer.
I'm a video games composer for over 25 years. We've covered this the BIOS in the earlier episodes, so check those out.
Definitely watch them. And today we have a great show. We have Louis Gorenfeld, who's going to demo his synthesizer, and you have a demo too.
Right, it's for SynthEdit, which makes plugins on the PC. You can create your own synthesizer plugin.
Yeah. Great. Well, let's get into it.
All right, and we're back with our interview part, and I have here Louis Gorenfeld, who is showing off his new synthesizer that he develops and talks about it. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So, first off, how did you get started with electronic music? What's your background?
So, growing up, we had a piano, which I, like to bang on, but, we also had a computer, and honestly, video games had some pretty cool soundtracks, and I got kind of into it from that angle, and I kind of realized that I could do every track in a composition, and I wouldn't have to have a band or anything, so it was kind of seductive that way, yeah.
Right, so did you have a music education?
No, I just kind of kept playing with it, and,
Right, same here. So, cool. What's your work? What do you do when you're not doing music?
So I work at a pro audio company called Muse Research, and we put out kind of rack mount gear for musicians, and I'm a software engineer over there. Unfortunately, I don't get to program synthesizers while I'm there, so that's why I have to kind of get my kicks after work at home. So. Oh,
that's pretty exciting. I actually know the Muse Research stuff. That's pretty cool. So, let's talk about your synthesizer and your little performance that you have set up.
So right here I have, it's not quite an interface. So, what this does is, there are these parameters that, you tell the host, hey, I have these envelope settings or whatever, and it kind of makes you a GUI. So this is kind of bare bones, and this is all I have right now. I'm not much of a GUI designer, so this was a good way to go for me.
Right. And the program you're using here, what's the VST host?
So this VST host is Renoise, and that is basically a high-end version of, I don't know if anyone watching this knows, Amiga mods or anything like that. That's kind of all derived from those. Same kind of interface. So it's basically, you've got this vertical piano roll. I'm kind of hesitant to call it a piano roll. It looks really more like an event list or something, but it's spaced out, according to beats, which makes it a little bit easier to use in an event list.
Probably have a special about trackers at some point.
We definitely have a special about trackers.
And but let's hear some sounds. Yeah. So what can your synth do?
So it does a variety of sounds, and as I was developing this, one thing that took me by surprise was how much a unison detune mode kind of adds to the richness of a sound. So check out this pad. That's too low.
That sounds rich.
Well, what's interesting is if you take this mode off.
Right. So then it's like it's very cold, digital sounding.
Yeah.
But once you get these overtones in there and the detuning, then it becomes really fat.
So here's a kind of higher sounds that's using kind of the same technique. So it's probably the thing that took me by surprise the most during development of this software.
And this also it has a character in the sound. So is it what kind of synthesis is this?
So it sounds kind of sort of analog-y, kind of digital. It's really this kind of a virtual analog technique that Casio pioneered in the 80s, right? And the Yamaha DX was out, and people criticized it, saying it was too cold, too hard to use. I think Casio saw that and said, well, we could do something that's similar but a little bit easier. So instead of having this kind of that really kind of complicated sounding operator, paradigm that Yamaha uses, Casio kind of stepped up and said, well, we can label everything pretty much more or less the way a traditional analog synth does, and that turned out to be pretty easy to use. It actually does something a bit different from FM, even though it has a lot of the same characteristics, where basically what you're doing is, if you imagine like a sine wave, right? This is the kind of the flattest sound you can get, no overtones, and you fold that into what resembles other waves, right? So you fold it into a saw wave by playing the first half back really fast and play the second half slower to compensate, right? You get a saw, and you can kind of bend and unbend to these different degrees. And
Right.
that's kind of has the effect of turning a filter up and down.
So let's explain that. So FM synthesis is frequency modulation.
Right.
And they do that on a digital basis, and then you can create these overtones over like a sine wave or whatever.
Right. And this synthesizer actually does do FM also, but that's not the main way it generates sound. The main way it generates sound is really just what I just described, where you're kind of adjusting the speed of the playback as it's playing. It's a little bit different from FM. FM does do that, but it does it according to the input being kind of another sound source, where this is doing it with the input being just either fast or slow, and so it's kind of modulating between those two kind of extremes.
Right. And this is closer to what Casio was doing with their ZZ
Right.
series.
Right.
And
So-
they called it phase distortion. So
Right, yeah.
that's essentially what you're doing in an extended way.
Right, and it has some interesting new twists. Aside from that detune mode I just mentioned, it'll actually do pulse width modulation, which I don't think I've seen a phase distortion synth do this.
That's gonna get exciting for me, because that's like the typical Commodore 64 lead sound.
Well, yeah, I love that sound, so I had to be sure, right,
Yeah.
that it actually did it.
That's what the Commodore 64 sound chip was known for, that it could have like variable pulse width
Right.
modulation.
Oh, yeah.
That stuff.
That added a lot to its leads too. Suddenly, it's almost like you had another filter to work with. Right?
So now you use that unison and you detune it. That's gonna sound really fat, huh?
Yeah, so you can do these really fat sounds with this, like it's a little bit high. So that sounds very FM-y if you play it high.
Yeah, I like the overtones that you get out of that.
Right, and this is no chorus or anything. There are no effects on this. This is just raw off the synth.
Not even like a lo-fi or a bit crusher. No, that is just pure.
That's just right off.
Yeah. Wow.
It'll kind of do these shredding leads too. If like so low. And so what this is this is kind of your typical kind of saw style lead off. Like a lot of analog synths will do this. One thing I like that I put on, for my own purposes was there's a delay on the LFO, so you can actually have vibrato kick in automatically after a second or so. So it's kind of the lazy way to write leads, right? You don't have to have a mod wheel, and if you want to use the pitch wheel for something else, you can, right? So.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's good.
And so this plugin that you're developing, is this going to be free, or are you planning to release it commercially at some point?
I'm planning on having this faceless, no real GUI version, be free, and I'm touring with maybe expanding it a lot more. There's a lot of other ideas I'd like to implement if I actually have time. This offer is actually in kind of an alpha stage or beta stage right now. There are a couple of bugs I still need to fix. It needs to be optimized quite a bit. This will actually, with those pads, will actually kind of kill this processor, and this is a fairly recent
Right.
Mac. It is low latency, but.
And you got filters in there too, and the classic things, and
there's
envelopes and stuff like that.
There's actually no filter on this, and I was going to put a filter on, and I was working with the equations a lot, and it was sounding just a little bit anemic, right? There was really no low end, so I've been kind of working on trying to beef that up. But meanwhile, there's no filter. So all those really analog-y sounds they're kind of done, with no filter whatsoever.
Wow.
Right,
Okay.
so that's kind of the heart of that whole phase distortion technique, and where it differs from FM is that it's made
Right.
explicitly to kind of mimic analog synthesizers.
Okay, so and you have a little song prepared.
Yeah, so I've been one day I was kind of at this coffee shop and I was going to work on my synthesizer, but I was kind of feeling like, well, I don't really feel like thinking right now. So I kind of started writing music instead, and I was there for a few hours, and that's kind of what I came up with. And so on this piece, everything but the drums are done through my synthesizer. And actually those little drum things at the beginning are my synthesizer too, because it can do a noise LFO.
Yay!
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you.
So that's a very capable synth. So is it available on your website? Or
Not
something?
yet. No. So I got to fix a couple of things before it's really ready. You know, and they're relatively minor. You know, like I said, optimization, and there's one bug where it'll actually stick a note every now and then, which I think actually might be fixed. I just have to test it. So yeah, beta tester would be nice. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, once
Sign
you're
me up.
ready, let's put it on our website, and
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's
Yeah.
get you some beta testers.
Cool.
Maybe even some graphic artists who want to help you with the
That would
GUI
be
or
awesome.
something. Yeah, so that was really cool. Do you have anything else?
I'm just amazed at how well it's come together, and like you've been working on this since the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On and off. You know, the last couple of weeks I haven't had actually time to touch it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing around with it a little bit earlier, and it's amazing the richness that you're getting out of just like tweaking just a few parameters.
Yeah, I was really happy. You know, one of my goals was really to make it very usable for for myself, because if there's one thing I actually don't like, a lot of VSTs you get them and there's a whole screen of knobs, and one of my favorite synthesizers, for example, is Alpha 3, right? And this is something with there's very little to actually tweak on it, but it'll actually make this wide variety of sounds, and to me that's really ideal. If I want to make any sound possible, there's always something like Maximus P, right? So
Exactly.
Who makes that?
that's LinPlug.
Okay, yeah, I have heard of that. Cool. So thank you very much
Thank you.
for being on the show,
Thank you.
and we'll hope to have you again.
All right, cool.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks. So, Chris, you have a new plugin thing here called SynthEdit. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, it's actually not that new. It's been around for at least like 6 or 8 years, and but it has been developed further and further. And it's essentially like a modular synth creating environment where you can stick together your modules and then create your own synthesizer
Yeah.
and save it as a VST instrument, which is the
Nice.
amazing thing that you can do.
So you can use it with any VST host, but you create it here in the editor.
Exactly, it's like a synth creation tool, and so I'm not going to go too much into detail. I'll just show a couple of features, and
Sure.
so this is, for example, what you see here on the screen is the work environment, and I loaded up one of the examples that come with SynthEdit, which is, by the way, you can try it out for free. I think it's you ask for a donation or shareware if you want to actually do something more with it. But it's very reasonably priced, and you can try it out for free. So let's just get into it. This is, as you can see here, this little GUI shows like a teeny tiny synthesizer. It's like a 303 baseline emulator kind of thing. And so when let's just play here like a couple notes. So this is very simple. There's a couple of bass sounds. And you can change here the filter and the typical stuff that you would have there.
Nice.
Now the interesting thing about this is very basic, you know, like a 1-2 oscillator thing. But if you wanted to enhance that, make it like a 5 oscillator synth, you could do that. And you do that by going, you see here the structure of this whole thing. And so it starts out with like a MIDI input, and that's connected here to this MIDI in on this container. Same with this like virtual MIDI keyboard that's also connected there. And then here you have a left-right output that goes to the sound card. And then this block actually contains the innards of that synthesizer. And you can show that by right-clicking here and saying structure. And you get this view where it like really outlines what the synth does. And for example, you have here you have some waveforms, pulse and saw, and they go here in this phase distortion oscillator. And from there you can see there's a connection here to a VCA, which is the amplifier. And that in turn is like connected to a ADSR envelope. So the typical building blocks that you would have in a classic synthesizer. And so I'm not going to change anything here for now, but you could like add objects, and there's like a ton that are in here. You see this insert, and there's all these different things where you have controls, conversion, effects, more elaborate things, filters, and all the different building blocks you would need to create your own synthesizer. And you can add them in there and connect them with these lines and play around with it and create your own masterpiece.
And if you don't like something, you just remove it and replace it with something else.
Exactly. So, but the thing is, you also don't have to be a wizard at designing these synths. You couldn't just use already made synths with SynthEdit.
Yeah.
There's a ton out there. I mean, there's literally hundreds, maybe thousands. That you can find on the internet. Good websites, either the SynthEdit website gives you like some links to community pages and stuff like that. The KVR audio has a lot of them. You can actually search their database and find them. And most of them are free. And you can build whole songs with it. So that's what I'm going to show you now. So the same synth, when you're done with it, let's say that was yours, you could save as VST. It creates a DLL file. You drop that into your favorite host, whatever that might be. I use Cubase. And then you can use that synth in your composition.
Amazing.
And so I'm going to show you that here. So I have the same synth in here. There it is.
The PD303.
Right. And plays one track here. Let's just go in here and play that a little bit, just to get an idea what it does. This is just like a little bass thing.
You're
and
modulating.
I put I put a modulation in. You can see the things move here with the recorded modulation to give it more like a live feel.
So this is only the synthesizer. This isn't effects that are built into Cubase.
Right. This is actually there's a delay built into the synth, and then I have a little bit of reverb on there, and that reverb is also SynthEdit creation. So everything you're going to hear here is coming out of free SynthEdit plugins. Okay, so let's move on. How about I'll just play the whole song for a little bit. Play over it, and then I'll show a couple more of these plugins.
Sure, sure.
So let's do that. Use my little nano keys here to play a little bit along. That goes reasonably well.
I love how rich that sounds. That was amazing.
So that's a song you can put together with totally free software, except the host. But there are some hosts out there that are free, yes. So you can load all those plugins into there. So let's see, like one of the first plugins that I actually found from SynthEdit that I really loved was the synth drum machine, which is called Drumatic. So that's this plugin, and it's got its own GUI, so they made like a really nice graphical user interface.
So you can actually create very, very complex, very rich-looking, professional kind of software with SynthEdit.
There have been actually a couple of developers who use SynthEdit to create professional, you know, software or plugins that you can actually buy.
So it's actually reliable. It's very customizable.
Right.
Great.
And so let's listen in a little bit here. So that's the drum sounds you heard. So there's here bass drum, snare, there's a clap. And this is not samples. This is like generated.
Real-time synthesis.
And hi-hats and stuff like that. And
nice.
Yeah, so that's one of the plugins that I love. And it's free. And then the most elaborate one that I found is called the Superwave P8. They also have editions of this synth that are, you know, that you can buy. But this one was free. I don't know if it's still available, but you can probably find it somewhere on the internet. And that looks already like pretty crazy.
That's a crazy interface.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and it's got really cool patches too. So there's here like. And it's like it comes with endless patches here, pads, strings, bass. There's really good stuff here. So. When it comes to bass, there's another one that I actually like, which emulates the Minimoog, which is actually pretty accurate from what I can tell, and it sounds great too. So is it on the right track here? Yeah. So.
Wow,
so,
that's awesome.
And I even created my own little synthesizer a while ago, the MicroSynt. I did my own little ugly GUI there, but it works. That was that lead sound. Has a little bit something of a Commodore 64 feel.
How easy was that to make using SynthEdit?
That took me a couple days.
A couple days is not a hard effort. I mean,
no, it was most of the time I spent actually on the graphics because I'm not a graphic artist. But yeah, it's fairly easy to put something like that together. And the special thing that I did here is it's just a monophonic synth, but you can use this little tiny phasing delay to spread the sound from like almost mono center to like make it very wide.
Nice.
Stereo. So. Little things like that, and yeah, so
that's great.
That's basically my little demonstration of SynthEdit, what it could do for you, and check it out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.